Well, hello everybody, and lovely to touch base with you again this week. Coming to you from the archive room at the conference office, a rather bland, echoey little space, but hopefully the reason why will become clear momentarily. But this particular time every year is a special time for our Seventh-day Adventist Church because we enjoy Week of Prayer together. And we're right in the middle of Week of Prayer at the moment. We're coming into the final weekend. And I hope that it's been a blessing to you as you've looked at the readings and gone through and reflected every night on the messages there, and perhaps increased your prayer life, or I hope it's reinvigorated your prayer life. But when I read the title of the week of prayer readings for this year, my heart sank. It said faithfulness in Christian lifestyle. And the reason it sank is because in the past, a few years ago, I really got legalistic in my Christian walk. And I kind of had this perspective that God was up in heaven with a heap of rooms like this, a heap of archives, a heap of records, and instead of what we store here, which is financial records and minutes and plans for churches and old photographs and all of that old historical stuff, we want to keep it for posterity. But instead I pictured God having a room like this up in heaven where row after row, shelf after shelf, book after book was just filled with all the bad stuff that I'd done. And he was just watching and waiting every time I stepped out of line, and it's another record, it's another book on the shelf of a big archive that was making up the Darren Slade record of life. And it was such a discouraging perspective. And as a result of me just focusing on my own works and what I'm trying hard to do the right thing, and just straining and groaning and really putting in heaps of effort, I became critical, judgmental, guilt-driven, and works-oriented. And I've got to tell you, folks, it was a really unpleasant space to be in. There was no life, there was no joy, there was no happiness, and there definitely wasn't any assurance, because as I thought about the record that God had of my life, I just went, how am I ever going to make it? How am I ever going to be good enough? But of course, I was thinking about it all wrong. And I've been really encouraged as I've read through the week of prayer readings this week to notice that the different writers have got the balance. Christian lifestyle is so important. How we live, how we reflect Jesus is a really important thing. But we don't do it in our own strength. We don't do it in our own effort. We don't do it outside of a relationship with Jesus. Jesus says in John 14 and verse 15, if you love me, you'll do what I command. And the problem with my legalistic period earlier in my Christian walk was that there was no love for Jesus in that. His love hadn't softened me. His love hadn't permeated me. His love hadn't filled me to the point where I wanted nothing more than to live for him and to do what he wanted me to do. It's a bit like when I got married to my beautiful wife, Suzanne. My love for her meant a whole heap of changes in my life that I wouldn't have changed otherwise. Little things that irritated her, or that she looked at and said, why are you doing that? And every one of those things I took note of, and I changed them. Why did I change them? Not because I was struggling and grinding along and, if I don't change it, this is going to be a problem in my marriage. No, I changed those things in my life because I loved her. And though the readings, the week of prayer readings this week have brought that out very strongly, that when we're in love with Jesus, that we'll naturally want to do what pleases him. We'll naturally want to live not just for him, but we'll want to live like him. And so I hope as you've read through these readings that they've been a blessing to you as well. A few years ago, I was morbidly obese, weighing in at over 140 kilos. I had a whole bunch of health issues. I was just big and uncomfortable, and it was getting to a critical point. You know, over that journey when I was big, there are a lot of people who thought they were helping me by pointing out my issues. You're too big. You need to do this. You need to do that. How can you be a pastor and represent this? And all of that negativity never motivated me once to go and do something about my issues. But then I had a handful of people who got alongside me and inspired me, not by telling me what I was doing wrong, but by showing me what I could be like. And it made the difference. And I turned the corner and lost 60 kilos and have been this size and shape ever since, praise God. And I say that to you because often when it comes to faithfulness in Christian lifestyle, either to ourselves or to others, it's easy for us to point out the things that either ourselves or others aren't doing right, to focus on the things that aren't going well. Rather than just inspiring people with what Jesus looks like, what his ideal is for us, and not coming in with that, you should do this, you should do that. That stuff is guilt and it's condemnation. And I know that there are times to guide people, but it is always done in love, and it is done gently, and it is done with a view to their eternal salvation. And when I had people get alongside me with that kind of attitude, it made a huge difference for me as an overweight person, and I was able to get the help I needed and get on that journey and lose the weight. And so I just share that with you because sometimes we can be awfully hard on other people who are at a different place in their journey, and we can be constantly saying, do this, do that, don't do this, don't do that. And it never worked for me. And every time I've tried that and pointed the finger at somebody else, it's never worked to motivate them in a positive way either. So the focus and the emphasis in our week of prayer readings this week has just been wonderful, I think, as our eyes, our vision has been lifted to Jesus as that person who loves us so much that he died for us and wants to live with us eternally. You know, the scriptures in 1 Corinthians chapter 10 and verse 31, there's a wonderful little promise there, a little text, a little piece of wisdom that guides me. And it simply says, when you eat or drink or do anything else, always do it to honor God. That's the principle for faithfulness in Christian lifestyle. Food, drink, what we watch, what we wear, what we listen to, where we go, all of those things, whatever you want to put into that big basket of living as a Christian, there is a great little principle. Whatever we do, we're not doing it to impress others. We're not doing it to try and earn our way to heaven or to somehow improve the records that God's got up there, which incidentally, there's not too many records on Darren Slade, because every time I go to God and say, Lord, I am so sorry for what I've done, he writes across it in blood and puts forgiven. So if you go up and have a look at my records, there's not too much left there that's worth reading, because Jesus is so faithful and he is willing to forgive when we ask for it. So I don't do it for any of those reasons, but I want to live like Jesus so that I can always honor God. And I pray that that is your desire as well as we continue through this week of prayer. Talk to him about the things that you're struggling with. Talk to him about the things in your life that you know aren't going well. And ask God for a way forward in those things. Ask him to fill you with the strength and the desires that you need in order to be in a better place with some of those things. And reach out to trusted, good Christian friends as well that can support you and hold you accountable. Don't reach out to the ones that can condemn you. They're no help. But reach out to good people who can support you and be a blessing in your journey. So I wish you all the best as you think about prayer, as you focus on Christian lifestyle this week, and as you look at how you can better represent Jesus. Let's continue to represent him to the best of our ability, because he's coming soon. We want people to look at us and get a really good impression of what Jesus is like. So until next time, take care and God bless.